Greetings folks, Steve here, and we have so much to talk about. I have been hard at work and I have not made a video in some time, so we've got a lot to catch up on. If you didn't see last video, you probably want to check it out. We go into the cost of building the Z with the L28 setup, but that's not all. There is some big developments in the channel. I'm on my own now, and it's just me and Goldie. Ursula's gone, another home. She's off somewhere getting used and abused by other people. And that's the way it is. So this week, I have been making huge strides in getting the Z ready for its next power plant. So let's get right into it. I'll show you guys what I've been up to. All right, old timer. Time for some action. Greetings, folks. Today, we are getting started on a pretty big project. I've been ordering a whole lot of parts. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I just moved that fat old boat anchor out of the back shed. This is a Turbo 400. I've had it for a while. I stole some parts out of it to put into the Lexus when I did its trans repair. Well, I ordered a bunch of new parts to replace the ones I stole out of this one. And then also to put a sweet trans brake on it. So that's what we're gonna be working on in this video. Stay tuned, we're gonna go through this thing. I'll try to keep it interesting the best I can and keep the video from dragging on too long. But step one, we need to cut the bell housing off of this thing because it's going up against a 2JZ, and the Chevy bell is not gonna work on a 2JZ. Yep, that's what we're working with. So I'm gonna start working on cutting the bell and kind of show you the way that we're gonna do this and why we are doing it. So what I've done is I found something flat. I used this little snap ring, and I held it flat against the face of the pump here until it contacted the bell. You see I scribed that little mark, and I drilled a hole right next to it. Scribed a little mark, drilled a hole, and I did that until I had lots of holes drilled around the outer diameter of the pump. So the key here is we want to leave a little tiny bit of bell so it'll sit flush with the adapter that we're going to do. So right now I'm going to go ahead and cut along the top, flip it over, cut up next to the bell or to the pan, and we'll go from there. This is the adapter that we're using to mount this Turbo 400 to the 2JZ, and to do that you have to use this bell housing. This is a bell housing off of a Toyota Supra A340e transmission. So to get this bell to bolt up to here, we got to take this adapter plate, this shiny little thing from Branger's Racing, and it's going to actually bolt right to the pump. So this is going to go through the pump bolts, hold that to the transmission, and then the bell then does this. Like that. And then you bolt the bell onto the adapter, and boom, you're good to go to the 2JZ. So the Branger's adapter, they pretty much keep in stock, it would seem. Under 200 for this. This guy, on the other hand, these J3 bell housings are not always easy to come by. Sometimes you get lucky and find one online or find someone who's got one, in which case you really shouldn't pay more than a couple $100 for it. This one, when I was looking for this, I couldn't find one anywhere. I ended up finding a guy in Australia who had one to sell. And he's like, I was like, how much you want for it? He's like, 150 bucks Australian. And he's like, but with you being in the States, it's not gonna be worth it. The shipping is gonna be just as much. So I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look. And so I did the conversion, and $150 Australian is $100 American. So I'm like, all right, well, tell me how much shipping is gonna be. And so he comes back and says it's like another $150 Australian. So I'm like, dude, that's a sweet deal. Send me this thing. So I paid $200 total for shipping and everything to get this thing brought over from Australia. You see how like salty it looks. Probably got a lot of that corrosion just during the trip because I don't think it had this much whenever he sent me the picture on Messenger. But that's a pretty cool story. Bell housings from Australia. And the guy was a real nice fellow. He also sent me a tub of Vegemite, but it broke in transit, so I didn't get to try it. So the next day I had to recharge all my batteries. I actually ended up using my handheld bandsaw. This thing is just wild. This little guy right here, it's like riding a bull every time you try to cut something. Good luck making a straight cut with it, but damned if the thing doesn't cut fast as shit. Anyway, all my cutting wheel, electric cutting wheel batteries went dead, so I used the bandsaw to cut the lump of it off. And then went back with my cutting wheel later and the grinder to kind of fine tune some things. And here's how it looks right now. So I went ahead and kind of grinded it smooth so it didn't have any jagged edges. All right, so there's the adapter all bolted up. And now we just want to make sure we can see light between the adapter plate and the case everywhere. All right, so now I'm gonna spray the whole thing down with some degreaser. I 3D printed these little plugs to cover up things that were openings in the case. I do have a cover for a dump valve return that goes over the governor cover there, but it's got a hole in it, so I went ahead and just 3D printed that stuff up. I kind of like doing that. That's obviously an optional thing here, but it'll help me keep water out of the case. I don't really want to fill this thing full of water because it probably won't be torn apart for several days. But we're just going to use this degreaser, try to get it nice and clean, and then we're going to doll this thing up a little bit. So if you'll step out here to my little custom paint booth, you'll see the 400 up on a bucket in the bell housing. And I got it all power washed and degreased the other day. Now I'm hitting it with some 1615 aluminum colored engine paint, high temp paint, withstands up to 500 degrees. And just trying to kind of church it up a little bit. I'm not using the pan on this build, so I got it on there just kind of blocking off all the open passages. The trans is gutted right now. I got all the parts out of it. So just giving the bell and the case just a little spritz to make them look pretty. And then tomorrow we will start the build. I'm in the house putting together my Turbo 400 right now. It's super hot outside, so I brought this table inside. My wife's not gonna be happy about it. But anyway, it's a beautiful, nice, comfortable work environment, and most of the stuff's pretty clean. So as you can see, I really don't even have any like pig mat or anything down because I've already got everything all cleaned up here. So I'm not gonna make you guys sit through another transmission build video. We've done that too many times in the past, but just kind of hit some high points here. I'm putting this transmission together with a CK12 leave trans brake kit. So it's going to be your valve body. You got to change some valves up. There's a different, actually appears to be a stock manual valve. Anyway, every trans brake kit is a little bit different, so I'm not even going to bother showing you step for step what you got to do. For this one, you got to, for most trans brakes, you do got to modify the case a little bit. There's a little wall in here, right around here, that you got to shave down. For this kit, it did require me to put a little, drill a little 1/16 relief hole near the modulator valve. I had to plug one of the fluid feed holes, and these are the kind of things that you can expect to do for pretty much any trans brake kit. There's some slight modifications to the case. We're going to be doing a 4L80 34 element Sprag style direct drum on this, which is just a super basic upgrade that pretty much everybody does. And yeah, I mean, really, other than that, I'm not really changing much with the transmission. I'm not putting any billet parts in it or anything crazy like that. So I think it's going to be just fine for what I am doing. One little upgrade that I wanted to do this go around is what's called the case saver. The case saver is this little billet aluminum guy right here you see on the right, and its purpose is to support the snap ring for this intermediate clutch pack. So if you look around the edge here of the intermediate clutch pack, which is these clutches right here, you can see there's lugs all the way around the edge, but there's a big gap right there where there's not any lugs. And so it's pretty common for people to add some sort of support here that creates something for that snap ring to sit under. Because what will happen is if you have, well, I don't really know what causes it. If you put too much power to it, or if you 1-2 shift during the burnout too often or too aggressively or something like that, then that snap ring will actually break all these lugs off the inside of the case, and it'll ruin your case. They call them chiclets whenever you see all these little pieces of aluminum in your pan. So that's not what you want. That ruins the transmission. So we did put a little bit of support there for just a little added something. I did leave the wave plate in on the intermediate just to kind of help soften up that clutch activation also, just to kind of help make things live a little bit longer. Yeah, I mean, everything else we're doing here is just kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. I will kind of drop in some kind of helpful resources that I've been using. So I got this book written by Cliff Riggs. This is a pretty good book. It doesn't go into like excruciating detail about the operation of the transmission or all the super tedious little specs that honestly, I wish it had a little bit more information about like checking in play and clutch clearances. But it is a good little just general guide for tear down, assembly, naming of parts. It also goes into trans brake and shift kit applications and kind of gives you some information about doing that in a general sense. But again, when you get a trans brake, it's going to come with its own set of instructions. It's going to come with lots of little parts you got to find a little home for. Another excellent resource that I've just utilized the crap out of is the Facebook group TH400s for drag racing. TH400s for drag racing. Building TH400s for drag racing. One of those, awesome group, bunch of super helpful dudes who are super knowledgeable, and I've just been having a great time. I'll just like read through other people's posts, just learn as much as I can. I'm super fascinated with the transmissions and the internal workings, but that's a great Facebook group to be a part of. But yeah, another upgrade I'm doing on this is going with a deep pan. I'm going to upgrade it from a shallow pan to a deep pan, give it a little bit more volume in the sump. And that pretty much covers it. So I'm gonna get this thing thrown together. I got some paint on it the other day, as you saw. So it should be looking pretty slick when we're all finished up. All right, y'all, feast your eyes on this. Behold in all its glory. There she is, boys, our Turbo 400 with a bell housing imported from Australia. Got the dump valve installed. Torque converter is gonna be done today. As soon as that arrives, she's gonna be all finished up.